Rod and Todd Flanders are weird kids. I mean, just look at these two. But I'm not specifically talking about their personalities. They're weird in how isolated they are from pretty much every other child character on the show. They're weird in the fact that we've seen them in episodes for close to 30 years now, but we really don't know what the differences between them actually are. Patty and Selma, Lenny and Carl, you know the difference. But Rod and Todd? Well, we're not even sure sometimes who is who. So the real question for today is, will the real Todd Flanders please stand up? So about a month ago, I discovered that I had it completely backwards on which one of these kids is Rod and which one is Todd. It was a 50-50 chance, but I had it totally wrong in my head. So it makes me wonder, how many people actually know who is who? When you look at these two next to each other, can you identify which is Todd Flanders? Even the writers seem very confused about this. In the audio commentary for Season 3's Radio Bart, showrunners Al Jean and Mike Reiss mentioned they sometimes would have to make up mnemonics to keep these two straight, like Todd Tall or maybe Tiny Todd. Nancy Cartwright seems certain that she accidentally played both characters at various points. So which is it? Tall Todd or Tiny Todd? And how consistent had the show been about it? Maybe this will be surprising for some people out there, but Todd Flanders is the shorter brother, and Rod Flanders is the older, taller brother. And here's the really strange thing. For a show that doesn't care about continuity at all, where the writers admit that even they're not sure about it, they've been amazingly consistent about this fact. I couldn't find one instance of them calling the shorter brother Rod Flanders. Now, I didn't look up every single one, but for the first 10 seasons or so, they got them all right. Would have totally expected one mix-up to sneak through, to be honest. But nope. The Toddmeister plays mini golf, Todd plays the violin, Rod has his 10th birthday at Uncle Moe's. Seems pretty straightforward to me. Simpsons Mysteries canceled, thanks for watching. Okay, fine. There are some inconsistent details about these two. For example, their ages. Do we really know how old Rod and Todd actually are? Well, Rod Flanders celebrates his 10th birthday in that Season 7 episode. On the other hand, Todd Flanders is described as being 10 years old in Dead Pudding Society in Season 2, where he's competing as Bart's rival. It was therefore implied that Rod Flanders, who didn't compete at the time, is older than both Todd and Bart. Furthermore, when Lisa babysits both of them in Season 8, she tells a scary story about Rod being 2 space years older than Todd. But it's not clear if they're 8 and 10, like Bart and Lisa, or something like 10 and 12. I don't want to confuse this further, but remember, Rod and Todd were both around before Lisa was born. So maybe Bart Sells a Soul was the continuity exception. Who knows? The funny thing is that this would be so much more clear if Rod or Todd were in Bart or Lisa's classes at school. They're very strange characters in that they sometimes show up at Springfield Elementary, but are rarely seen with the other kids. You don't really get playground scenes with Nelson and Rod, for example. In the later seasons, they're not even at Springfield Elementary, instead going to a private Christian school. If I had to make sense of all of this, I would guess that maybe all the kids' grades are totally staggered. Lisa's in 2nd grade, Todd's in 3rd, Bart's in 4th, and Rod's in 5th. But once again, who knows? The writers got their names right, but obviously played fast and loose with the other stuff. That's really the reason why we're not doing a full-blown Simpsons histories on these two. We certainly know their personalities, but there's this weird, vague, fuzzy mystery about the details. They are among the most insulated characters on the show, only appearing in very specific circumstances. They're kid characters, but not really. It's honestly a miracle that Todd Flanders went on the Lemon of Troy adventure, because it is totally not his scene. Speaking of which, let's talk differences. Is there actually a difference between Rod and Todd, or are they basically the same person? Okay, so hear me out. Here's my theory. I view Todd Flanders as the more extroverted overachiever of the two, whereas Rod Flanders is the more passive and reserved character. Todd Flanders enters the mini-golf competition. Todd plays the violin during the concert, plays the guitar at the Leftorium. Todd goes on adventures to Shelbyville. Todd's the editor of their newspaper. Todd stars as Baby Moses in their movie. Being the younger brother, he's written as much more perceptive and impressionable. He'll pick up on Homer's swearing and not want any damn vegetables. When watching Itchy and Scratchy, he wonders if he should poke his brother with a sharp thing. Maybe that isn't surprising though, since Todd Flanders has the devil's curly hair. In general, I get the impression that sometimes Ned Flanders either favors Todd, or just likes giving him the extra attention. Typical youngest child. He'll bring Todd along to welcome the neighbors, he'll put Todd in charge of the car when he leaves, he'll instruct Todd to shoot him if he tries to get back in. I mean, come on, that's some big responsibility right there. You always ask your favorite son to shoot you. Or maybe it means that he knows Todd is tougher than his older brother. The real reason the writers did it this way is obviously because Todd is inherently more childish than Rod, and it's fun to have the smaller kid curse and say ridiculous things. Ow, my freaking ears! Overall, I just get the impression that Todd Flanders, as sheltered as he can be, is more social and outgoing. In a season 29 episode, they did a brief subplot about Todd constantly bothering Lisa, trying to be her friend. He makes a little house for her with models and stuff. When asked if he's just hanging around because he's in love with her or something, he explains that he just wants to have a friend and is sick of his brother. Aww. Forget Lisa and Milhouse, smell you later Lisa and Nelson, make way for Lisa and Todd. Man, Homer would hate that so much. So if Todd is the Mario of the Flanders brothers, then Rod is most certainly the Luigi. Which kinda works since he's the tall one. My instinct is to say, poor Rod, the show hates him so much. Rod has way less going for him. But hey, there are a lot of people who prefer Luigi over Mario. Underdogs unite. Rod tends to be written more straightforwardly, not really deviating from his family's churchy tendencies. He's the one behind the camera when making their film. He'll scold his father and tell him, lies make baby Jesus cry. He'll walk into a wall because God tells him to. His brother Todd gets drafted into a dangerous Shelbyville trip. Rod Flanders prefers a junior camping trip. Which also becomes dangerous. But whatever. Rod Flanders arguably only has one spotlight moment in the entire series, and it didn't come until season 17, in Bart Has Two Mommies. In this episode, Marge babysits for the Flanders kids and tries to get them to have fun and be more self-confident. Meanwhile, Bart gets kidnapped by a mama chimpanzee who eventually carries him to the top of a church. Yes, this episode is ridiculous, but it's weirdly one of the best episodes from that season. Season 17 is kind of a mess. But anyway, it's Rod Flanders, not a smelly brother, who courageously climbs the church steeple to save Bart. Typical oldest child. So maybe Rod isn't just a vanilla passive nobody after all. At the end of the rescue mission, Bart tells him the wrong definition for the word gay, and Rod proudly proclaims that Mrs. Simpson made him gay. His father is less than pleased. But that does remind me, in a season 15 episode, Rod does comment that he's jealous of girls because they get to wear dresses. And we shouldn't forget the Flanders appearance in season 11's Bart to the Future. Obviously, these are all one-off jokes designed to make fun of Ned's discomfort with all of this. But it's possible either or both brothers are LGBT. Once again, who knows? That's basically the motto for this video. The Flanders family had always been a commentary about super religious families and how kids can ultimately become too sheltered and isolated. It's actually kind of perfect that Rod and Todd are as mysterious as they are, that they're so overshadowed by their parents' beliefs and routines. Now obviously, I don't want to, demonize Rod and Todd. They are clearly very kind, polite, and loving kids. I've never gotten the impression that they're hateful or anything. They are just a really nice cautionary tale about parents keeping their kids under their thumb too much, not letting them make choices or discover things about themselves. Honestly, some of my favorite character moments for them are in those later episodes, when Marge or Edna tries to get them to spread their wings. I think there's some unexplored potential with them, some opportunities to put them in unfamiliar situations. We'll see. All I know is that if this were a Simpsons showdown over which brother is inherently better, well, put me on Team Todd. The Toddmeister for the win. But don't take my word for it. I'm pretty sure this is all just headcanon at this point.